The Briefcase by Sevastian Winters. Graham Sutton stepped off the stoop of the house under surveillance, titanium case in hand, the morning sun glaring off its scuffed sides. He noted the cracked trim on the doorframe, the flaking paint on the step. The woman inside would say she wanted something modern, but what she really needed was practical. Stain-hiding fabrics, easy to clean. 2 children under 10. He'd spotted the toys in the hall. He filed it away. Another lead, another call to make later. The case swung at his side, with familiar weight, the leather handle biting into his palm. He adjusted his tie, loosened it a finger's width, and started down the pavement, with the steady stride of a man who had 3 more appointments before noon. From under a parked car, a tabby kitten nosed into the light, ribs showing under its fur. Graham slowed, crouched. The case clinked against the ground as he set it down. He rubbed his fingers together. The kitten crept closer, ears twitching, and nosed at the toe of his shoe, before letting him scratch behind its ears. Its purr rose, faint and steady. "Off you go," he murmured, giving it one last stroke. He stood, picked up the case, and carried on. A car door shut behind him. Not hurried, not casual either. Just the kind of sound that made the air go tight. Graham's eyes slid to the reflection in a shop window as he passed. 2 men, one hanging back, one pressing closer than he should. Their rhythm was off. His hand went into his jacket without thought, fingers searching for the familiar weight of his pistol. 26 years it had been there, metal resting against his ribs, solid as a heartbeat. A companion he'd cleaned 1,000 times, field-stripped blind in barracks, drawn under fire. He felt the absence now, raw as a missing tooth. His hand brushed nothing but lining. That life was behind him. He let his arm fall loose again and kept walking, case swinging at his side. At the corner, he cut left into a narrow street that stank of bins and old oil. He didn't hurry, didn't break stride. Footsteps quickened behind him. Graham stopped midway down the alley, turned. The closer man came on hard, hand inside his jacket, weapon half drawn. The titanium case snapped up, edge first into his knee. Bone cracked under the impact. The man collapsed sideways, gagging. Graham stepped in, elbow smashing into his throat, the sound echoing sharp off brick. He drove him against the wall, forced the pistol out of his hand, caught it before it hit the ground. Heavy, black, warm from the man's grip. He checked the slide with a practiced flick. Chamber full, safety off. The weight settled into his hand like it belonged there. He slipped it under his jacket, out of sight. The man slumped, coughing blood onto the concrete. Graham didn't look back. He walked out the far end of the alley, the case swinging in one hand, his jacket heavier on the other side, every step measuring the city ahead. Traffic thickened at the junction. Graham crossed steady, case in his left hand, pistol's weight firm under his jacket. The black sedan idled at the far end of the street. Behind him, a white van eased sideways into the junction, narrowing the flow. In the van, a voice clicked over comms. "Box set. Target in funnel." "Copy." "Wait for the mark," another answered, flat, controlled. Graham stopped at a cafe window, eyes on the chalkboard menu. The glass showed them clear enough. 1 man pressing at his shoulder, 2 more drifting across the street, closing the angle. He adjusted the case strap into his palm. His right hand brushed the pistol under his jacket. The first moved with the noise of a passing bus, timing his rush to hide the sound. Graham pivoted, drove the case edge into his ribs. The man folded. Graham shoved him into the glass and drew in one clean motion. A shot cracked. Driver's side window on the sedan shattered. Contact! Contact! Gunfire! Pedestrians scattered. Screams cutting the air. The van doors banged wide. 2 men out, weapons raised low. Graham stepped into traffic. A cab skidding, horn blasting. He fired once. Shoulder hit. The man spun and dropped. Team 2, collapse left. Maintain box. Calm voices clipped. Graham cut right into a delivery lane. Boots hammering wet pavement. The van's engine revved behind. He slipped through a service door held with a brick. Steam from the kitchen bursting hot across his face. Cooks shouted. Metal clattered. He kept going. Through and up the back stairwell. Pistol tight. Case in his left hand. On the roof, he crouched low. Shouts below. Radios crackling. Across the gap, a rooftop team spilled out. Rifles high. Visual on case. Target eastbound. He broke into a sprint. Bullets cracked, gravel spitting at his heels. He dove behind a vent, returned 2 shots. 1 man dropped, rifle clattering loose. Graham was moving before the body hit flat, leaping the roof gap, landing hard on bent knees. The case jarred his thigh, but held. Down the next stairwell, out a fire door, into the crush of a Saturday market. Smoke, onions, barkers shouting, children tugging at sleeves. He shoved the pistol deep under his jacket, let the case swing loose again, and slipped into the noise. Target in crowd, eyes on. Do not lose that briefcase. The air hit him, warm and greasy, thick with smoke from the grill stalls. The market spread in every direction, awnings striped red and blue, fruit stacked in pyramids, fish laid out on melting ice. Voices overlapped, hawkers calling prices, children yelling, a woman laughing too loud at something on her phone. Graham slipped into the flow, case loose at his side. He slowed his walk, shoulders easing, blending into the tide of shoppers. His jacket bulged with the pistol, but nobody noticed. Everyone was too busy haggling, talking, eating. He smelled onions charring, sweet buns baking, a sharp tang of vinegar cutting through. His eyes tracked the angles, alleys opening off the main stretch, fire escapes above, the broken rhythm of the crowd. He clocked 3 men moving against the current, not looking at the stalls, not looking at each other either. One brushed too close to a pram without even seeing it. He slid between a couple arguing over the price of oranges, kept his head down and let their row be his cover. The case handle bit deeper into his palm. He adjusted, shifted it to his left hand, freed his right. Target in crowd. Maintain eyes. North team, pushing to intercept. Their voices were flat in the radios, threaded with static. No panic, no edge. Professional, coordinated. Graham cut down an aisle between racks of second-hand books and boxes of old records. A boy no older than 12 darted in front of him, hand brushing his jacket pocket. Graham caught his wrist mid-step, a firm squeeze, then released it. The boy's eyes went wide. He vanished back into the crowd, muttering. Graham didn't break pace. The bookstall owner shouted after him, trying to push a cracked leather atlas into his hands. Graham ignored it, eyes fixed ahead. 2 of the watchers had broken off, angling to close from both ends of the aisle. He stopped, pulled the pistol under the cover of his jacket, angled it low by his thigh. The first man came into view, feigning interest in a box of vinyls. Graham kept walking. The man looked up, caught the faint shake of Graham's head, and froze. His partner hesitated on the far end. A breath of stillness stretched long. Then Graham slipped right, ducking behind a curtain strung up at the back of the stall. He pushed through a storage space that reeked of damp cardboard and incense sticks, out the back into a service lane where delivery vans sat bumper to bumper. Behind him, radios clicked sharp. "Target moving! He's ghosting us!" He kept to the narrowest path, weaving between crates stacked high with fruit, his shoulder brushing rough wood. The clatter of boots closed in. A van door flew open ahead of him. Another pair spilling out, eyes sharp, weapons hidden under jackets. He raised the pistol. One of them froze, hand halfway to his sidearm. Graham lifted his chin, almost imperceptible, daring him to draw. For a long breath, no one moved. The stench of overripe bananas and diesel fuel filled the gap. Then Graham stepped back, melted into another knot of shoppers as if he'd never been there. He heard the men curse under their breath, forced to hold their fire. Up on the rooftops, a spotter muttered into comms, "We're burning assets. He's walking through us." The reply was clipped. "Negative. This is tradecraft. Stay patient. Box him again." Graham drifted deeper into the crowd, the case still steady in his hand, eyes already cutting for the next exit. The market pressed tight around him, awning poles close enough to brush his shoulders, smoke rolling heavy from a grill, 100 voices layered one over the other. Graham moved through it like part of the current, case in his left hand, his right brushing the pistol under his jacket. Vendors shouted over one another. £2 a punnet, best strawberries this side of Kent. Fresh mackerel, still shining, still wriggling. The air carried onions, vinegar, sugar, fish. A woman tugged her boy along by the wrist, his balloon bouncing against Graham's thigh as they passed. A shadow drifted across the tarpaulin overhead. Rooftop, then. He slid sideways, letting a family of tourists with dripping cones block the view. The case knocked against his shin, steady rhythm with each step. "Target holding east side. Maintain spacing," came the voice over comms, flat with static. "South team, cut north. Box him slow. Civilians are too thick." The watchers moved with discipline. One feigned interest in watches. Another bent low over a fruit stall, not seeing the fruit at all. They thought they were subtle. To Graham, their lines were drawn as clear as ink. Graham cut right down an aisle of second-hand clothes. Racks swayed as he passed, sleeves brushing his arm. A hand darted from between the coats, reaching at his pocket. He caught it, firm and quiet, just long enough for the boy's eyes to go wide before he let him slip back into the maze. The aisle opened near a spice store. He breathed coriander, turmeric, the sharp hit of chili in the air. His gaze flicked past a mirror hung crooked on a post, one of them behind him, another angling ahead. He slowed, stepped into the press around a man hammering out notes on a steel drum, letting the rhythm swallow his footsteps. Children clapped, coins clinked into a bucket. Graham watched the reflection in a polished cymbal, both men holding back, waiting for him to break cover. "Target stationary. Possible handoff," another voice said. Lower now, a question buried in the report. "Negative. He's probing us. Close net on my mark." Graham turned sharp, slipping behind the stall where incense smoke curled heavy, masking him for a moment. The curtain at the back gave way under his shoulder. Cardboard boxes, damp air, the tang of mildew. He kept low, moved fast, out into the narrow service lane. Vans lined it bumper to bumper, engines ticking cool. The smell here was ripe fruit and exhaust. Graham slid along the crates, case tight to his leg. Boots hit the pavement behind him, controlled, closing. A van door cracked open ahead. Two men stepped down, jackets stiff, hands already near their sides. One looked straight at him. Graham raised the pistol a fraction, the barrel low, steady. Not pointed, just there. His chin lifted half an inch. The lead man froze. The other held back, tension across his jaw. They didn't draw. Not here. Not in this narrow throat of a lane where gunfire would ricochet off steel and stone.
For 3 long breaths, nobody moved.
Then Graham eased back into the crowd, spilling past the service lane, sliding between shoppers as if he'd never left them. Over the radios, clipped and even. Target refused contact. He's walking straight through us. No, he's shaping the field. Adjust perimeter. Keep your eyes on the briefcase. Graham let the crowd close around him again, the press of voices swallowing the sound of boops and comms, his eyes already on the far end of the market. The man by the olive stand wasn't buying. He was angled wrong, weight on his back foot, hand brushing a comms bead in his ear. Two more shadowed each other too neatly across the trinket stalls, never looking, but always mirroring. On the rooftop, someone moved to a kneel, the sun flashing off a lens for half a heartbeat. Graham saw it all, catalogued it without effort. He bought himself time with pace. Too fast, and he'd draw the pack tighter. Too slow, and he'd look like bait. He let the current of shoppers carry him along, head turning once at a shout from a fishmonger, letting it seem casual. His right hand never strayed far from the pistol under his jacket. The case stayed low, loose at his side. A girl spilled a tray of drinks across the cobbles. People bent to help, voices raised. Graham slid sideways through the knot, using the confusion to cut his line of march. He came out near a cheese stall, thick air stinking of brie and goat rind. One of them closed from behind, moving with the ease of training, pace measured to intersect. Graham brushed past a family crowding the counter, bent as if adjusting his shoe. The reflection in a tin display gave him the angle. He straightened into the man's path, their shoulders brushing. Graham's lips moved, one word, almost without sound. No. The man faltered, the line of pursuit breaking for a moment. South contact delayed. Target aware. Copy. East team tighten net. Control says stand by for intercept. Graham cut left again, past crates of peaches, skin furred and soft in the heat. He caught sight of another pair ahead, watching the crowd but never in it. He drifted into a knot of tourists arguing over maps, letting their chaos hide him. The pair scanned over the group and missed him by inches. He slipped out on their blind side, pace quickening for just a moment, enough to gain ground. The pistol pressed solid under his ribs. The case swung with his stride. Above, another rooftop shadow moved to cover the next street. Visual reacquired. Target eastbound. Repeat, eastbound. Keep pressure. He's bleeding us slow. I don't know who this guy is, but he's not fucking around. Might be American. He has the swagger of the agency. Another voice squawked back. I don't think so, Cap. This guy funnels like Mossad. Well, just don't lose that fucking briefcase. Graham angled toward the far exit of the market, the noise thinning, stalls giving way to brick and steel again. He knew they'd close it, force him into another choke. He knew the pattern because it had been his once. And he knew the only way through was to break it before they finished tightening the net. The aisle narrowed near the butcher's row. Canvas stretched low overhead, the air thick with raw meat and sawdust. Graham eased into it, case low at his side, shoulder brushing a hook hung too low. The voices of the crowd, thinned here, swallowed by the drone of refrigeration units. Ahead, two men stepped out from opposite sides of a store. They didn't rush. They just walked, each holding a bag of meat as camouflage, closing the lane into a channel no wider than Graham's shoulders. He slowed a fraction. Behind him, Boots pressed closer through the crowd, steady, disciplined. He was bracketed now, front, rear, and he knew there'd be more sliding in to close the sides. A woman tugged a pram past, the wheels squeaking against the wet cobbles. Graham let her pass him, then slipped in tight behind her, case hooked up against his thigh. The men ahead hesitated, unwilling to risk spooking the child. Graham moved with the pram, a shade too close, eyes locked on their hands. The woman turned left suddenly, ducking under a flap of canvas, and Graham was exposed again. The two men adjusted instantly, fanning wider. Behind, a voice cracked soft over comms. Target fixed. Lane collapse on my mark. He didn't wait for the mark. The case came up fast, edge first into the closest man's knee. Bone snapped with a muffled crack. The man went down hard, spilling his bag, meat scattering bloody across the stones. The second froze just long enough. Graham's pistol was out, barrel brushing the air between them. A subtle shake of his head. Don't. For a heartbeat, the man obeyed. Then shouts flared from the rear. Boots rushing closer. Graham pushed through the gap before it shut. He barreled sideways into a vegetable stall. Crates toppling. Aubergines and tomatoes rolling underfoot. The crowd shrieked. A stallholder shouting curses. The press of bodies breaking into chaos. He used it, slipping low, case dragging against his shin. A child screamed as fruit turned to pulp under stomping feet. Graham cut sharp right, found the flap of another canvas stall, and ducked through into the open air. Sunlight blasted him. He hit the street at pace, leaving the crush behind.
Radios barked tight in his wake. Target broke contact. North exit. Repeat. North exit.
Pursue. Pursue. Do not lose the case. Graham's stride never faltered. The pistol slid back under his jacket. The titanium case swung steady in his grip. He was out of the market, but he knew the net would only draw tighter now. The street outside the market felt different. Space enough to breathe. Sunlight harsh after the dim tarpaulins and spice smoke. Graham slowed his pace, blending back into the ordinary rhythm of foot traffic. His jacket tugged at his shoulder where the pistol sat. The titanium case swung steady at his side, its weight unchanged. For a block, nothing pressed him. No voices in his ear, no Boots rushing behind. Just a man in shirt sleeves dragging a ladder off a truck. A father kneeling to tie his daughter's shoe. The jangle of an ice cream van parked crooked at the curb. Graham watched the girl point at a cone, saw her father laugh, hand over coins. That should have been his world now. Normal. He shifted his grip on the case, adjusted his tie, and kept moving. From a rooftop across the street, a scope tracked him. The spotter's voice came even through the static. Visual reacquired. Target northbound. Pace steady. Another voice answered. Teams 3 and 4. Adjust intercept. Vehicle cordon 2 blocks up. Don't spook him until I give the word. The black sedan slid in at the far end of the road. A second car shadowed the cross street, timing its crawl with his pace. A motorcycle engine buzzed faintly at his back, holding distance. Graham caught the reflection in a darkened shopfront. 3 angles closing, neat and precise. His jaw tightened. Graham shifted his stride, casual but deliberate, as if he'd simply decided the shop window wasn't worth his time. The sedan up ahead eased forward, blocking the curb. The car on the cross street angled out nose first, waiting for the light. Behind him, the motorbike's buzz drew closer, steady, the sound threading under the rest of the city noise. He turned left, slipping down a narrower side road lined with shuttered storefronts and scaffolding. The crowd thinned here. Only a delivery man wheeling a stack of crates, an old woman dragging a cart. The air smelled of hot tar from the scaffolding poles baking in the sun. Comms murmured above him, faint but caught in the stillness. Target turned west. Teams adjust. Bike unit shadow. Do not engage until intersection. The motorbike followed into the side street, engine revving low. Graham felt it in his chest before he heard the tires shift across the grit. The rider pulled up alongside, visor down, jacket zipped. A gloved hand twitched at his hip. Graham didn't slow. The titanium case came up smooth and fast, swung in a brutal arc. It caught the bike's bars, wrenched them sideways. The machine bucked, rider tumbling, metal scraping hard against the pavement. Sparks and curses filled the narrow lane. Graham walked on, case steady in his grip, eyes already marking the scaffolding stairs rising to the rooftops above. From comms, sharper now. Bike down. Repeat, bike down. Target escalating. Teens collapse north and cut rooftops. Graham gripped the scaffolding rail, boots ringing against the steel as he climbed. The case swung heavy in his left hand, each step clanging higher above the street. He kept his head tilted, eyes catching flashes in windows, the glint of glass that didn't belong. Halfway up, a shot cracked. Brick dust spat off the wall beside him. He ducked, pulled himself to the next landing, and swung over the rail. Another shot rang out, chasing him across the planks. Rooftop contact. He's vertical. A voice snapped over comms, calm but urgent. Copy. Teams 4 and 6, cut high. Lock streets below. He won't ghost us again. Graham moved fast along the scaffold boards, pistol tight in his right hand, case in his left. The metal poles rattled under his weight, tarps flapping in the wind. Below, the motorbike rider was already up on one knee, shouting into his mic. Cars shifted at the ends of the street, boxing tighter. A figure rose from behind an air duct across the gap. Rifle up, sightline clean. Graham fired once. The man dropped out of view. He kept moving, boots pounding steel, lungs burning. Another flight up. He pulled onto the roof proper, flat gravel underfoot. The city spread wide around him. Helicopter rotors thumped, faint in the distance. He could feel the net cinching closer, hear it in the clipped orders bouncing rooftop to rooftop. Visual on target. East roofline. Don't spook him. Wait the clean overlap. Graham ran low across the rooftop, case swinging, pistol steady, the city closing in from every side. A skylight flashed at the edge of his vision. Graham dropped flat, gravel biting into his palms, as a burst of rounds chewed through the rooftop where he'd been a moment before. He rolled to the side, came up in a crouch, and sent 2 sharp shots back. A silhouette jerked, fell out of sight. Contact! Contact! He's active on the east roof. Push him west. Snipers hold. Don't risk the package. The package. Always the case. Graham shifted course, sprinting low across the tar and gravel surface. Ahead, another gap yawned between buildings, 2 stories down to the alley, too far to drop. Only one way across. He broke stride, boots hammering faster, and launched. The case dragged his shoulder as he flew. He landed hard, knees screaming, but kept upright. Behind him, more boots hit the roof, calling positions into radios. He threaded between ventilation stacks,
pistol loose but ready, case heavy in his fist.
The world narrowed to angles, cover, escape lines. Another gap, narrower this time. He cleared it in 3 strides, gravel spitting out from under his heels. From the street below came the screech of tires, doors slamming, more voices over radios. A helicopter shadow skinned across the roof, the chop of rotors building into a pounding roar. Target in the open. He's moving north, still carrying. Units converge. A rifle cracks from the next roof over. The round kissed his sleeve, burned a line across his arm. Graham didn't slow. He fired back twice, enough to force the shooter down. He reached the far edge of the roof, saw the drop into another alley. Fire escape bolted to the wall, rust streaking under every joint. He swung himself onto the top rail, case clanging against steel, and started down fast. The rotors swelled louder overhead. Shadows stretched long across the bricks. Graham descended 3 stories in seconds, boots clanging each landing. At the bottom, he dropped hard into the alley, knees jolting, case steady in his hand. Comms snapped like static lightning in the air above him. Targets on the ground. All teams collapse. He's boxed between 9th and West.
He stepped out of the alley,
eyes already cutting for the next angle. The alley spat him out into a wide intersection. 9th to the left, West cutting hard across. Both ends were already choking shut. A van slid sideways, doors sliding open, men stepping out with jackets stiff and eyes sharp. On the far curb, a black sedan nosed across traffic, horns blaring as drivers leaned out windows to curse. The helicopter's shadows stretched over the brick, rotors thumping, loud enough to rattle the glass. Graham adjusted his stride, not running, not slowing, just moving as though the street belonged to him. The case swung steady. His right hand brushed the pistol under his jacket.
Control, we have him boxed. 9th and West locked.
Copy. All units hold positions. Collapse on my mark. Pedestrians flattened themselves against walls, sensing the pressure even if they didn't see it. A delivery boy on a bike froze in the middle of the crosswalk, eyes wide, before bolting the other way. Graham veered left. The sedan jerked to block. He cut right. The van ahead shifted forward. Boots scuffed against tarmac. Men closing the perimeter with silent precision. He turned toward the scaffolding stacked against the building to his right. 3 workmen in orange vests gaping down at the scene. Graham mounted the boards fast, pistol in his fist, case knocking against his shin as he climbed. Bullets sparked off the metal poles. The workmen scattered, shouting. Target's vertical again. Contain him. At the top landing, he wheeled, firing twice into the street below. Not wild, not wasteful, just sharp punctuation. The men at the van ducked back. The cordon bent for a heartbeat. That was all he needed. He sprinted across the boards, leapt onto the roof, and ran low, breath steady, case tight in his grip. The city noise swelled, sirens in the distance now, another layer closing fast. Negative. He's breaking north across the roofline. Collapse! Collapse now! A sniper's round cracked, glass shattering from a skylight inches from his head. Graham ducked, vaulted the next gap, and kept moving, every stride carrying him further from the box they'd tried to close. Behind him, the comms buzzed hot, with voices that never rose above calm. He's not boxed anymore. Then box him again. Do not lose that case. And Graham ran, every line of the city opening in front of him. Half an hour later, having seen no more sign of his pursuers, Graham eased onto a bench, set the titanium case on the planks, and spun the dials. The park was alive with small noises: the crack of a ball against pavement, a dog barking at pigeons, children shrieking near the fountain. He looked like any man stopping for a late lunch. But through half a dozen rafflescopes, he was the center of the world. Control. Target stationary. He's opening the case. All units, stand by. Snipers, confirm glass. Repeat, confirm glass. Glass confirmed. Clear on 3 sides. South flank obstructed by civilians. Graham flicked the latches, the familiar metallic snap, sharp, even in the quiet park. Case is hot. Repeat, case is hot. Stand by for contents. The lid came up. The men on rooftops held their breath. Fingers curled tight against triggers. Radios crackled, the line alive with static. What is that? Can you confirm? Looks like packaging, brown paper, possible concealment. Hold fire. Do not compromise until confirmed. Graham unwrapped a sandwich, peeled back wax paper slowly and carefully. The smell of mustard and ham lifted faintly on the breeze. He raised it, took a bite, chewed, eyes half-lidded, like a man finally at peace. Silence fell across the net. Then a disbelieving voice. Did he just... Control, please advise. Subject is consuming a sandwich. Another voice, dry and flat. Repeat transmission. You're cutting out. Negative, you heard me. Sandwich. Ham, I think. Possibly cheese. Do you think the inspector is likely to be cross about this? Shut up. Across the city's rooftops, 18 men sat frozen in firing positions, watching through scopes as the ghost they'd chased all morning sipped from a thermos and reached for a small bag of potato chips. Graham Sutton chewed slowly, eyes on nothing at all, the titanium case yawning open beside him. Fabric samples in the briefcase, moving slightly in the breeze. A small sparrow landed on the table beside him. Graham tore off a corner of his crust and tossed it toward the grateful bird. I wonder what all that was about, he said aloud. Then he smiled and realized he no longer really cared.